Alright everyone, time for a video about why we can't really rely upon the US Congress to reasonably tackle the issue of tech censorship. Corporate fascism is another way of labeling it. They can't. Some of you would say, well, that's because, they're controlled by Silicon Valley. Well, some of them get a lot of money from, like, Facebook and Google and stuff like that. I'm not discounting that. Ultimately, as we've seen throughout time, though, there are still examples of Congress being able to tackle such issues, even where there's a lot of corporate cash involved. What happens is the public consciousness gets large enough, it becomes politically inconvenient, they have to act. The problem is this, when we're talking about tech censorship on the internet by the big tech giants, their vertical monopolies, their de facto trusts, and duopolies like with Google and Apple controlling basically all of the App Store movement. Here's the problem. Congress is split between different groups of people who can't tackle it out of ignorance. Some people in Congress are not even aware that there's a problem. They think that it's a boogeyman because they get their news from Politico or Slate. And so for them, they don't see a problem. They've been brainwashed as much as the public into thinking that it's not censorship, it's keeping people safe. It's fighting extremism. It's being family friendly. It's cleaning up the internet. All of these good family friendly sounding rounded corner, bright colors sort of things like you'd see in a fucking daycare playground. That's what they believe. Then there are groups of people who can't act because they realize there's a problem. Like Holly fits into this position. They realize that there's a problem. They realize it's censorship. They realize it's biased. But they boil it down to the partisan. That is, for Holly, he's saying, well, this is about suppression of conservative voices. So we're going to go in and we're going to try to fix it. But it's not about that. There are people on the left being censored as well, and certainly algorithmically demoted if you look around on YouTube or Twitter. It's simply about big corporations trying to snuff out their smaller competitors. If I'm Vox, if I'm CNN, I don't want to compete with David Pakman or Progressive Voice or even someone like Jared Holt any more than I want to compete with Styx Hexenhammer, Stefan Molyneux, or Lionel Nation. I don't want to compete with anyone. I want as much of a monopoly for myself as I can. If I can scrub every independent content creator off YouTube, kick them all off Twitter, if I can crush all of alt tech, hey, I'm making a lot more money. And also, there are less people absorbing less ad revenue, which means, guess what? I get more of it for myself. Because it'll need to go somewhere, the cost will lower. The cost of getting ads served will lower. I'll get more money from it. Google will be serving it through to me because those companies will want to, they'll want to pay more to have it on people's content if they can get it on content at all. Because now there are fewer slots available to absorb the ads than slots to actually serve them, which is the opposite of what we've got now. Adpocalypse 1.0 was just about Google throttling ad service to 99% of the user base because there weren't enough ads for the 1%ers that have the big audience. I hate to tell you, but if you're on YouTube, fundamentally, if you're in the 1% of YouTubers, if you're in the 100,000 club or whatever, you and people like you are driving about 99% of the site's material. The rest of the platform is comprised of people who rarely make videos, never make videos, or make videos that get no traction. They get 10 views a piece or something. That's not an insult, it's just a function of how the site works. And it's similar on other platforms too. You're not even fighting for views or subscribers, just time usage. The amount of time that's spent on, maybe the top 1,000 or 2,000 political channels is probably, can you even imagine the numbers that you're dealing with? How many minutes per week do you think it is? I wouldn't even bother trying to calculate it. Have too many zeros to appear on the screen, probably. It's a huge amount of attention. Yes, ads have to be served throughout that time. There aren't enough ads to go around, so that's what led to Adpocalypse. But Congress has another problem. It's the age problem. The average age of someone in the House, isn't it 54? And I think for a senator, it's 62. Yes, surely the most tech-literate generations that have ever lived. See, the House is comprised mainly of the young boomers through the oldest millennials. The Senate is comprised of a bunch of boomers and Gen Xers. I don't think there's a single millennial in the U.S. Senate at this point. I might be wrong, but Rand is one of the youngest. He's a solid Gen Xer. Again, no offense to people who are in these age demographics, but the likelihood of them understanding the minutia of content creation, censorship, and how it deeply affects people on the ground, like our actual audiences and content being made and promulgated, how many people in the U.S. House are adept at making YouTube videos? Most of these people probably don't even manage their own Twitter accounts. Do you honestly think that they can tackle the issue of tech censorship? Also, then you have the willful ignorance. The willful ignorance is that when they're talking about this issue at all, they will call in Zuckerberg, they will call in Pichai, they will call in Susan, I can't pronounce the last name, Wojcicki, I believe it is, I think. They're calling Jack Dorsey. How many content creators are ever called in? Because Alex Jones, who's part of the missing link media, he doesn't, just sit there with a webcam and make his own stuff, for the most part, except when he's using a cell phone. He goes in, tries to confront Rubio. Rubio pretends not even to know who he is. I guarantee you, the average person on the street, I think if you sampled 1,000 random people, more of them would recognize the face of Alex Jones than the face of Jack Dorsey. And yet Dorsey goes in there, talks uninhibited, not even under oath, for hours and hours, or has some surrogate do it for him. He gets complete deference, no hard questioning, everyone nods their heads respectfully and takes their little notes and says what a wonderful time it is. If Alex Jones were to go in there, he'd get browbeaten by half of the people as though he were a violent extremist trying to promulgate a race war or something like that. And then he would get shut out, and he would be under oath and mistreated the whole time. They did this to Diamond and Silk. Remember, they were under oath, and they faced very combative questioning from several Democratic, I think, senators at the time. Was it the Senate or the House they were testifying before? It might have been the House. It's more usual. Regardless, though, I mean, these people don't know what they're doing. They don't know anything about the tech world. Even if they know how to make a tweet or something, they don't know. They're not part of the culture. They don't understand that there is a subculture on these sites that is different from the outside world. Soccer Mom America, when they hear lurid stories from CNN or whatever about all the horrible things on YouTube, they don't know anything about YouTube. Not as a wider platform. They use it. They go on it to look at a cat video. They looked up their favorite music video from back in the 70s or something. They look these things up. They know that it exists and that YouTube hosts videos. They don't know about the culture on YouTube, which is really what it's become. It's become a sort of a extended family for a lot of people, I think. Helps socialize people. It's a good thing. Now they're talking about removing comments on the whole site. Guess what? If they remove streaming and comments, there will be fundamentally no way for people on YouTube to communicate with each other other than VRs. They'll have to make video responses to one another in order to communicate at all. Wouldn't that be funny? It's like, for each video, there'll have to be a second video addressing the comments in the first one, I guess. So I'll have to make 8 videos a day if that happens. No thanks. No, I think that I would just rather communicate with people through a different platform. I think I'll use Dissenter, or I'll just start using the comment section on BitChute preferentially. I guess I'd have to. But Congress, no, Congress can't tackle this issue. Asking the government to get involved is a fundamentally bad idea anyway. I don't want the government to get involved beyond apply existing laws against monopolies, force them to be a publisher or platform and to act like it. That's number one. And number two, extend the rudiments of the first and fourth to the online world. Liberals won't get censored. Conservatives won't get censored. People with mundane views are fine. People without their views are fine. Anyone not breaking U.S. law fundamentally will be fine. It's like Don Lemon the other day is like, well, what would you say about my free speech? Hitler was just speaking at one point. It's like, yeah, again, and I wish that I can't remember who it was talking with Don Lemon. I wish he had pointed out, hey, yeah, Hitler, that guy who really liked censorship. Yeah, sounds a little bit like Don Lemon now, doesn't it? Doesn't sound like some random YouTuber with a fucking or some podcaster saying weird shit. They're not going to be the next leader of the Third Reich, but the liberals might accidentally trigger something like that by instituting corporate fascism, the likes of which the world has never seen, that crushes all human communication, monitors and surveils everything and censors it at the same time. That's the sort of mechanical apparatus that could actually lead to a worldwide fascism. It's not some YouTuber that's going to do that. It would have to be a corporate structure. They've got more power than most governments in the world at this point. And you want to give them more power. I think that that's fucking nuts. That's about all. Peace out.